From Studio 304 in KCOC Student Center in the heart of Kaufman, Texas, it's The Tonight Show starring Chris Dowell. Tonight, join Chris and special guest Bryan Lucas. Bryan is a husband and father. He played professional basketball overseas for 10 years and now coaches basketball in Kaufman. Bryan is here to share his journey of faith with you tonight. And now, here he is, your host, Chris Dowell.
Season 2. Welcome to the Night Show, ladies and gentlemen. We're back tonight with our second show of Season 2. We've got a great show planned out tonight and a great lineup for the rest of the season. We are glad you're here, glad that you made it. So, as we kick off every show, here's what people are talking about. So it's been a bit of a crazy week this past week.
How's that?
I don't know if it's my allergy medicine messing with my head, but I've seen some pretty crazy stuff this past week.
Crazy like what? Like pink elephants or like flying rabbits or something like that?
Not quite anything like that. Not yet, at least. But thankfully, I was actually able to catch some of it on camera, just to prove that I'm not going crazy.
I'd like to see those clips. You know, I think you're so crazy, but like the clips, that's a whole nother discussion.
All right. So it started out last weekend. We went to ACU for the ACU homecoming, and as the parade opened up, I saw a dog, this police dog, leading the parade.
That doesn't sound that crazy.
Except for the dog was driving himself in the parade.
No, he wasn't.
So I got a clip of it here. This driving dog. I don't know, but that's pretty cool.
I don't see it.
That could be the best part of the parade, all day right there.
How'd you get that video? Well, I know, but I don't remember anything. I remember me.
Regardless of what Dylan says, there was nobody in the crowd or on the car with a remote control. Like, it was no. I think you're seeing things.
Okay,
So
like, I don't know what's more impressive, the dog driving or the fact that he kept his hat and sunglasses on.
that was impressive. That I can't even keep a blanket on my dog. Like if I throw a blanket over him. So the fact that he had glasses on and driving himself in a parade is pretty good. But then the second thing was. Monday night after I left Freddy's, I stopped by Walmart to pick up some bread and milk.
It's never a good story when it starts with I stopped at Walmart to get bread and milk.
I know it was a dangerous outing at 9 o'clock at night to go to Walmart in Kaufman, but you know, man's got to do what man's got to do. We were out of milk and bread, and I had to provide for my family. So we know we had some rough storms. Wow.
They don't like my laugh.
Hey, I enjoy your laugh because no one else is laughing. So, laugh it up. So, we had the storms on Monday night or Sunday night, and I think that the tornadoes may have ripped open like a wormhole or something in the space-time continuum. I don't know how it works, but I was at Walmart and I saw a baby T-Rex chasing a rainbow unicorn who was following an alien that had run off with some dude. Right through the parking lot of Walmart, through Walmart. Yeah.
Okay, now you definitely need to get your
But I know you're thinking it might be my allergy medicine messing with you, but I actually got a clip of this as well.
I want to see this.
Alien almost got hit by a car too.
Our Walmart.
Yeah. If I'm lying and I'm dying, I mean, right there.
Oh my. That's one ride. There's the TV.
T-Rex was struggling a bit. It's funny when he runs though. I like his little head bob going. Told you. T-Rock.
Move your head.
You never know. Never know. Oh, you never know what you're gonna see when you go to Walmart at 9 o'clock at night. So, all right, guys, thank you. We got a great show tonight. Y'all stick around. It's gonna be a great night. We are excited tonight. Again, our second episode of the new season. Got some great shows ahead. So Monday night we had the fundraiser night at Freddy's. Had a lot of fun out there. Always a great night of fellowship and family fun with everyone eating together, hanging out, talking. And while we were there, after we ate dinner, and we're gearing up for our second of ice cream and desserts, some of our budding writers for the show put their heads together. Literally put their heads together. And they worked out a couple of jokes. Try out, kick off the show there tonight. So we'll give those a shot. See if these want to keep the writers around or not. So it's up to the producer. See how the ratings go tonight, how the jokes go over. So we'll give this one a try. What did the mama cow say to the baby cow? It's past your bedtime. I think the picture got more of a response than the joke did. So. Yeah, sorry, that one didn't work. So, all right, we can go back to the background picture. We don't delete that up there. It's a children's show. It's a family show here. There we go. All right. So, I know you've probably heard of this already. Probably all over the TMZ and social media and stuff. But Stephanie and I we got into it the other night. Pretty heated argument going on, and got pretty bad. So she told me I could not. I had to stop impersonating flamingos. So I had to put my foot down. Flamingos. No legs. Alright, yeah, that one didn't work much either. Alright. Got a lot of things going on. Got a great show tonight. One thing I want to make you aware of next week. Remember, the show will not be airing next Wednesday night. Next Wednesday is our fall festival. So encourage you to be here after school. Help us get set up. We'll have the fall festival. Be here for that. Stick around for that. Still need help running some of those booths and activities and games. There is a costume contest with prizes. So make sure that you are. Make sure you're here for that. Dress up and all that. And then the show will return the following week with a good buddy of mine, Mike Avery, will be stopping by. We got a season filled with great guests. Yeah. Really don't want to miss any of the upcoming shows, but first, we got a great show coming up.
Have you or a friend been blindsided by boredom? Were you injured while left alone after school? You need to contact us at after school break time.
I got hit by boredom real bad, but the offices at after school break time got me into a fun-filled afternoon.
We are available every Wednesday after school. Don't let after school boredom wreck your day. Call us at 1-800-BREAK TIME.
Welcome back, y'all. Our guest tonight Grew up in Manteca, California, just east of San Francisco. He played professional basketball internationally for 10 years. He's a father of 2. He teaches and coaches basketball for Kaufman. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, put your hands together for Mr. Coach Bryan Lucas. Let's go here on the stage. There you go. There's our computer's lagging a little bit tonight with the music. So, Bryan, thanks for coming tonight, being on the show for our 2nd season. Now, your wife Jane was on the show last season. She shared her life story and talked about you a little bit during that. We're excited tonight to hear your side of the story and for our students here to hear about your life on and off the court and in and outside the classroom. Now for you and our audience, you can join our conversation tonight. As Bryan shares and talks, you can text in questions, and we'll get to those a little bit later in the show. So to join that conversation, text Chris Dowell 82 to 37607, and then once you join that, you'll be able to text questions, and once you've joined, and they'll come up here, and then later on in the show, we will answer those questions. So send those in if you have them. If you don't have a texting device, you can quietly use your neighbors to text those questions in, and we'll try to get everyone's questions as best we can. So Bryan, as we get rolling, and just kind of introduce yourself a little bit before we jump into your life story and go all the way back to the beginning. So as we mentioned earlier, you're married. Jane was on the show last season. How many years have you all been married now?
18 years.
18 years, good. You got it quicker than she did. Good. So, and then y'all have 2 kids.
2 kids, Hudson and Mallory, who is 6 years old.
All right, there you go. Hudson just came into the student ministry this year, so one of our new students there. And now you've been coaching for 9 years.
This is my 9th year, yes.
9th year coaching, and it started in Forney, and then 2 years ago came to Kaufman.
Yes, 7 years, and then this is my 2nd year at Kaufman. Yes.
All right. So what all do you do for Kaufman?
Mostly I work at the junior high with the sports, basketball mostly.
Okay.
I help out on the varsity level also with Coach Kaufman.
Okay.
And I'm also the pre-athletics coach.
All right. Very good. Very good. And so tell us a little bit about kind of how you see your role and the way that kind of works. We talked a little bit about some of the consistency that you're able to bring to the program.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing sports-wise there is that I'm able to work so much closer with the varsity head coach, which is ultimately the goal for the kids that are in basketball. So they get to hear the same verbiage from the time they're in 6th grade all the way up until when they're hopefully on varsity. And so it makes the transition a lot easier for them to hear Coach McLaughlin say it, and they already know what he's talking about when they get there. So it just speeds up practice, speeds up the development, and I've had a great time doing it. It's the first time I had ever really dealt with a junior high level of kids, so it was a little bit different, but I've loved every bit of it.
Great. I think that consistency is key. Just that unified message throughout, building that foundational language and elements is great. So that's where you're at now. Let's talk a little bit about how you got here. You said you grew up in California, went to church there, and you were involved in your youth group pretty heavily. Why don't you share with us a little bit about your junior high experience and the events that kind of led you into getting involved in sports?
Yeah, so I had always loved sports. I always played sports, but when I was in 8th grade, about 3 weeks before I graduated, my father had gotten into a car accident and passed away. And he had worked for UPS, and he was in a UPS truck when it happened. I guess the best way for me to have coped with it is I poured myself into sports, and it kind of kept me distracted from it. At that time, you don't know which way it's going to go. You know, I was getting ready to go into high school. I didn't really know a lot of people in high school because I was homeschooled 7th and 8th grade, and so it was all a new journey for me. So when I became a freshman, I was a new kid. Nobody had known me, and I was kind of just in the mix. I hadn't really peaked. I hadn't really gotten good and really into the sports at that time. And so that was one avenue for me to get, I guess, over the death of my dad. So that's kind of how I started into the sports and just loving it and watching it on TV and still talk to my family. It's probably pretty important in my life.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your youth group experience?
Yeah, my youth group experience has always been awesome. I grew up in a youth group. I don't remember ever really doing anything unless I was with friends from the youth group. So from the time I was in 7th grade to when I was even graduating high school, I even went to a school to be closer to 2 of my friends who were already there, who had graduated the year before. And that's a long story, that journey that took me there, but it was the best thing for me. I remember I used to look forward to going to Wednesday nights and Sunday night church just to hang out afterwards. And you know, I was there all the time. It was a good thing. It wasn't like I was ever you know, upset that I had to go to church. It was like we couldn't wait for Sunday mornings and Sunday nights and Wednesdays. And the growth of the youth group and the people that came and went that had kind of shaped my life, especially after my dad had died. You know, I had 2 really good friends, Micah and Tim, and we still talk to this day, and we're really close still to this day, even though one lives in California still. If we talk, it was like we seen each other yesterday, you know, and they kind of shaped my belief, kind of the way I lived, because I think in a way the 3 of us kind of hung out and we didn't want to disappoint the other one. It was they kind of kept us accountability, and I remember that's kind of where kind of my growth started when I was in that youth group. And I remember when I was trying to go to college and things had fallen through and I didn't know what I was going to do, and they kind of called me and was like, why don't you come down here, we'll even stay in the dorms, the next year we'll all live together. So that was the way I first went to a school out in LA. That's kind of how that went.
All right. It's awesome to hear. So it's cool to hear those stories of those foundational relationships that were built at a young age, still having those relationships with those friends that you were in youth group with. You know, the accountability that y'all had, kind of calling each other to a higher level of the way that you lived, and even you know, drawing you into college and in that way. Very cool. So you started out, you said you started out college in California, and then you transferred to North Texas?
To North Texas, yeah. And so I went to Azusa Pacific, which is out in Pasadena. It's actually in Azusa, California. It's next to Pacific. And I had always had dreams of playing Division I sports, and I kind of fell through, just not because of me, but I had signed at a Division I school that actually quit their whole football program the year that I signed. So I didn't have anywhere to go, and North Texas was interested in me, so I transferred there, and they were also going to let me play both sports there. So that was a big factor in coming in, which was kind of hard to leave. I know Tim and Michael were kind of upset that I was leaving, but it all worked out, and I know it was there for a reason.
Yeah. So you played both football and basketball?
Yeah. So I actually was a football player. That's what I went for first.
Okay.
And basketball was kind of second tier. I guess you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to make the NFL, but they did tell me that.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So start out football, switched over to basketball. Then right after graduation, y'all got married.
Yeah, we got married in August, and I left about 2 weeks afterwards to go to Iceland and actually play first year professional basketball. And that was a culture shock for one, but it was different because when I got over there, it was about a week or so, 2 weeks before 9/11 had happened. And so she got stuck in the United States. So I was over there for a long time by myself in a foreign country, which was awesome. I'd go back right now to Iceland. It was a great experience for us. But, you know, when you're over there, you know, 9/11 happens, you know, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but you just kind of start thinking like, you know, is this the end of the earth? That's what I was thinking. I'm over there by myself. I wanted to come home, but I couldn't leave. She couldn't come over. So that was kind of my first experience outside the United States for a long period of time. And so I just remember, I don't know how many phone cards I went through back then. They didn't have internet and all that. So it was, you bought a phone card, put it in, and call on the phone, and I would talk to her, and it would run out, and I'd go to the gas station, get another one, I'd call her back. And it's kind of how the process went for a while.
Yeah. Different time.
Yes, different times.
All right, so you started out in Iceland, and then kind of where else did you?
And then I played 2 years in the developmental league, which is now the G League, which is the minor leagues for the NBA. And we actually lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the time. And then from there, I went over to Austria and played in Austria and Germany. And that's basically where I stayed. I had a little stint. We went to Bosnia for a little bit. And then in the summers, I'd played a little bit in China with some NBA guys that went over there for a tour. And then I was in Germany the last time. Actually, that's where Hudson was born, was in Germany. So that was a good experience.
Yeah. Then why don't you share with us a little bit, you talked kind of the way that you were able to witness both on and off the court with your team.
Yeah, I was always cautious about the way that I lived off the court overseas, and just because I knew that not only as an American, but to the other Americans, but to the German people and the Austrian people who don't really have churches. I mean, they just don't. There's not a lot of them there. We were fortunate to go to some churches, some English-speaking churches actually over in Germany and Austria that we would go to every Sunday. We would drive about 45 minutes to an hour, to go, and we would be there. And mostly military people ran the church, and it was awesome for us. But for the people who were actually from there, they did, the culture over there is not, certain areas is not around a church. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty rough the way they lived and the way they thought, and just their views of the world. So I was always real cautious of the way that I lived, to try to live my life the best way possible so they could see that. Yeah. And I remember when we had talked before this, we had talked about, we used to put on dinners every Sunday nights. We would have dinner. We'd have the whole team over, and we might live in an apartment. I don't know, there'd be 10 people, 12 people in an area of this stage, trying to eat American food, because we'd go to the base and buy it. And, they loved it. And I think it was kind of, without saying it, I think it was a good way for us to show, Christ-like attitude, the way we loved our teammates. We thought they loved them as family. And I think it brought a lot of our teams together. In fact, I know it is because we had a teammate that emailed us about 2 years after we were done playing, and he was still playing. And he just emailed us both and just said, hey, I really, didn't realize how much that meant to the depth of our team and to our attitude. And a lot of those Americans that go over there, they don't, a lot of them come over by themselves. So it's, you sit in an apartment, you go to practice twice, you go to a game, and you just sit around, so that, just that thing. And I think, we never pushed, hey, do you want to go to church with us? We never pushed that on any of them, but they knew that we were what we believed in. And that's something I was always proud of, because it was something that we really, really strived to do. And I think it really worked out, especially the last year we were there. We were just really close. And I know a lot of people were always like, they would be like, hey, Brian, are you going to go out tonight, like joking around? And he'd be like, I'm not. But then there was some of them that had stopped doing that because they realized that, Brian doesn't do that. He doesn't talk about those things. And it kind of revolved to where everybody was, very respectful about it. Yeah.
And it's cool to have that opportunity. One, to have the opportunity, but two, to take the opportunity, and to kind of go above and beyond, to be willing to open your home, be hosts, to be that example, to be those people that were there to kind of draw everybody together.
Yeah, and it's not always what you say. It's truly how you act is what people see, and I believe that, and I know first impressions they do make a big difference, because if somebody sees you and they see every day, because we're together every day. There's nowhere else to go. We practice twice a day, play games. We were on buses most of the time for road trips. You're around these guys more than I was around Jane and them, and even Hudson when he was born. So they saw that. Yeah. I didn't have to say it, they saw it on me, and I think that's one of my biggest things that I really got out of there over anything else, was just kind of how I lived my life while I was over there.
For sure. It's our actions definitely speak louder than words. That's right. So got to practice what we preach. So you've done a lot of amazing things and been to a lot of really neat places, and
just to see the way that God has grown you and led you and Jane and positioned the two of you to just be a light and a voice for Him. So is there any other aspects or words that you'd want to leave with our students tonight?
Think, I think what you have in a youth group and in the church as you get older, you always try to find somebody that you connect with or somebody that you can trust, because sometimes sharing your concerns or something that you have, it's you make yourself vulnerable for people to, what they think, you don't want to share this, what are they going to think about me? Are they going to make fun of me? Are they going to talk about me? But just the truth, the trust you have in a youth group, which is what I had always. I knew I could do whatever, or I could say whatever to anybody in that church group, and it would stay in there, and they would truly try to help you through it. I think it's important. I think you can find that in this church. We love this church. I'm so happy that when Jay and I got married that I became a member and came to this church. It's been very special to us, and our kids growing up in here. I think it's important, and it's because of you. It's because of Doug. It's because of the youth group. Now that the kids are around, that they need to they would hang out and grow their faith through y'all. And we're a big part of it also at home, but it's the friends, it's the people they hang out with, and kind of like your picture over there, you are who you hang out with. I think that's a big part of going through when you get, especially in junior high and high school. I think it's a lot of peer pressure. It's easy to give in and to do the right thing.
For sure. So having those anchor relationships that kind of keep you grounded, keep you where you're supposed to be, and kind of help you see more clearly are important. And it's again cool to hear you talk about the relationships you had when you were this age and sitting in a room like this, and the fact that you still keep in touch with some of those guys, and the relationships that carried on through junior high and high school and even into college and into adulthood, and just that positive influence that y'all were able to have on each other is really neat, and something that's good to think about, because I don't think we were thinking about that down the road when we were in junior high. And you don't think about the future. You don't think about those friends that you might have and how long you'll have those relationships, and how much those relationships are forming you and shaping you. And like you talked about, you are who you hang out with, and when you really start looking at yourself and breaking it down, you start realizing, okay, I have this trait, but where did it come from? And you start realizing these different friends and different personalities in your life, family and acquaintances that rub off on you, and that you take in, and you don't even realize it until you've been doing it for years, and it's just, this is who I am. But you realize later on down the road that you learned it from somebody else, one of your friends or someone in your family.
Yeah, that's right. You nailed it, because I was in 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, and I was hanging out with them. I always saw the good. Like they were the best people I could be around. Their parents, and we did everything together. And like you say, you don't really realize it until you get older, and you start thinking about decisions you make, and then you're like, no, that's not the right decision. And it's because you were molded at such a younger age. Because at this age right now, there's so much stuff, especially in school, that can pull you away. Especially with technology, the way it is now, just the way, and you get caught up in it and don't really realize it, and then when you do, it can be too late. So I think just the foundation that you get while, at church, and especially, youth group when you're young, and the people you hang out with is so valuable in learning your life lessons early on.
Yeah. Having those friends that make you a better person instead of encouraging you to go do something stupid.
That's right.
So choosing your friends wisely, very, very valuable lesson to learn early on, as well as that idea of just making the most of those opportunities that God puts in front of you, whether it's a relationship or it's an opportunity to be a light or an example to people, and wherever you go to be that person that people look to and look up to.
That's right. I believe that, I think you're given situations. I think God's going to continue to put things in in you to strengthen you up. And if you mess up the first time on it, that doesn't mean He's not going to do that again. He wants you to get it. He wants you to realize, this is the way it is. This is the way you should be. And if you do struggle, and it happens because everybody's human, and it happens to everybody. But to have the base around you to that you know you're going to be forgiven, that it's going to be okay, that you know it's not going to end because you made a mistake, that you can come back and trust people like that. That's the most important thing, I think, you know, because we're all going to mess up at some time in our life and continue to mess up as you get older. But as long as you're around people you trust, love, and have that encouragement around, it just makes life so much easier.
For sure. Those people are crucial to that we surround ourselves with, and important to have a solid group and base. Anything else you want to share before we go to break?
Oh no, I'm just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I've watched a few of these over the last year. This is a pretty cool thing what you do up here. So
well, thank you. So thank you for coming and sharing your story. And so after the break, we'll answer some of these questions y'all have been sending in. So if you have any more, send those questions in. We'll be back after this.
From day to day, we must choose how we will live our lives.
I've always preferred the cream part of an Oreo. That's crazy. The cookie's the best part. Cream. Cookie. Cream. Cookie. Cream. Cookie. Cream. Cookie. Cream. Cookie. I'm calling the cops. You guys have to stop fighting. We're the cops.
Which side will you choose? Junior hires. Join us Sunday mornings at 9:30 as we dig into the foundations of Christian living.
We are back. So before the break, we heard the awesome story of Coach Bryan Lucas, and you were given the opportunity to text in some questions. So we're going to go through some of those now. So somebody asked, what teams did you play for?
So I played for Bremerhaven. I played for Tindastol. I played for Klagenfurt. Kirstenfeld. I was at a couple of those. I was at a few of those teams a couple of years. So I played for the Fayetteville Patriots in the G League.
Okay. All right. Someone also asked, what is the most points you ever scored in a game?
In high school or pro?
They said pro.
42. 32? No, 32. Probably 32. About 32.
Let's see. Did you ever eat any gross foods while living overseas?
Yes, we did. When we were in Iceland, we actually ate it was lamb, but it looked like a knee joint. And, it was not good at all. And we do like lamb. I do like lamb over there, but that was not particularly well. That's about it. I'm pretty cautious about it. The food over there is really good, especially in Germany.
Let's see. More people texting in jokes. No, we're not going to read the jokes. These are questions. All right. All right. So some of the more kind of some of the serious questions here. So who are some of the adults that were influential in your life as a teenager?
So mine would have been one of my best friends, Micah. His dad, Adrian. He was he was one of the associate pastors. He led the music, but he also did our youth group. I was always really close with him, and I got real close with just some of the other like dads that didn't really have teens, but they were good friends with my parents. That kind of just shaped me. They were there. I mean, when my dad passed away, they were there, and I know if I wanted to, I could have called them at any time. And I know they helped out, especially I know a couple times they drove me to practices. My mom couldn't make it, or whatever. So just some of the men in the church.
They just stepped in and were there for you.
They were there from day one. I mean, I could probably call them to this day. You know, they're good people.
So kind of talking about that time in your life, somebody says, looking back at the loss of your dad, what would you say to someone that has struggled or is struggling with losing somebody?
You know, it's not easy, and sometimes, you know, it's been, long ago was that? It's been 30 years, 32 years, I think, probably since that's happened. About 30 years since that's happened. But there's still times in my life that I wish he was here. You still think about it, especially when you have kids, or when I was playing basketball and just being able to see him and be able to do it. And it's a tough time, but I think as you think about it. It's a tough situation, but it's how you kind of adapt to it. I mean, it's not easy, but as long as you have the people like we've been talking about in your group, in your circle, to help you get through it, and somebody you can go and cry to if you have to. You can go talk to them, and they can give you a hug and say, it's going to be okay. We're all in this together. It's not good to go and shut everybody out and try to do it on your own. I think that would be the worst case scenario, just to me. I mean, and maybe for somebody else, but. The good thing about it, when it happened to my dad, it was everybody in our church just kind of circled around us, and it made the transition really easy.
All right. So just surrounding yourself with those positive influences, people that can be a comfort and a strength.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. What was the hardest thing that you went through when you were playing basketball, and how did you stay focused on God through that time?
Well, as I was playing, we actually, Jay and I had a miscarriage. We had a child who was stillbirth, and that happened. Actually, we were home when it happened, but it was pretty trying times at that time. And on the court, there was probably at the end of my career when I got hurt and I didn't really want to rehab it and have my ankles fixed, and that time when it's probably not going to happen anymore, and you just kind of got to give it up. That's a tough time when you've been doing something you love for so long. Yeah. And you just you have to cope with it, and you got to move on and pick yourself up. I mean, you can't especially with the family and coming home. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know Jane wasn't going to let me sit at home much longer, and sat at home for like a year. And I went back and I wanted to coach and teach. And luckily, I got into Forney with the people that I knew there. It just fell on my lap basically. The year they needed a coach. He's like, "Hey, can you come help me coach?" And I was like, "Okay." Well, I guess I have to teach too, so I have to get certified to teach. So that's just kind of how I cope with that. But I've always had, people around me that have had my back, no matter what. Even when I was younger, like we talked about now. I mean, it was just a transition was a lot easier.
It says, were you closer with your church or youth group friends or your school friends?
Oh, by far, church. I remember me and you were talking about this. I can't remember when I hung out with anybody at my school until they graduated, and in my senior year, I hung out with some other people, but I was still talking to them in college. They still drove down to watch me play my games. Wow. So I can't remember. I'm sure I probably every once in a while did. I just don't remember that. I remember the times with them, and we were thick as thieves, man. We were tight, so it was pretty cool.
Then some said, how did you keep your relationship with your friends in the youth group after they graduated? So how did y'all keep up with one another?
Well, I went to college and moved in with them. That was the first thing. I know it's a pretty cool story how that. I mean, obviously it all works out for a reason. And then now one has just moved here and lives in Prosper, and the other one lives in Southern California still. We just talk. I mean, like I said, I could text him right now. I haven't talked to him probably in a few months or whatever, and we can talk and laugh about something that happened 30 years ago, like we've just seen each other. So just staying in communication. Everybody's super busy, but we make it happen every once in a while. We try to get together, or not get together. We try to chat as much as possible.
That's about. Let's see. Did you learn any foreign languages?
Oh man, I used to be able to speak German, but I couldn't do it now. We actually sat through a class to learn German one time. That was a long day.
And this person specifically asked, how hard was it to learn Icelandic?
I never did.
Never did. Okay.
No, that is hard. That's like a mixture of like 3 languages together.
Yeah. All right. And then, did you play with any NBA players?
Yes. Most recent one, I don't even know y'all know, Matt Barnes. Played with Jason Collier, who he's passed away now. He had a heart attack. Devin Brown played for the Spurs. Omar Cook. Yeah, there's been a few. I'm sure I'm missing out on some. Kevin Lyde, Rodney Buford. Probably none they've probably heard of. He's old now, but Matt Barnes, the most recent. He just retired last year. He won a ring with the Warriors.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thank you very much again for coming and sharing your story tonight.
Life on Earth is a delicate balance of relationships, especially with those in our individual family groups. Sometimes we break that delicate balance. High schoolers, join us Sunday mornings at 9:30 for a study of Christian families as we dig into what it means to live as Christians in our households. You must decide how you will live your life. Will you just barely survive? Or will you be equipped? So that you can thrive.
Okay, who's up? Me?
Join us Sunday, November 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. for Thrive, Junior High Edition.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. As we close out the game tonight, we're going to play a little game called Random Item Shootout. Tonight we have 5 items. The first 4 items are worth 4 points. We'll start out with a piece of pumpkin pie, then a Halloween skull, a mini jack-o'-lantern, a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks, not a sponsor, and then the money ball, which is worth 2 points, is a basketball shoe full of candy. I'm going to let you go first as our honored guest, so you can take your pie and chunk it to the goal. I would recommend throwing the plate. Now there's not a... All right, go for it. I will follow suit then, and I didn't want to underhand it, but if that's what the pros are doing these days, then I'll. I got a backboard. That may be the best. I don't know.
Now this one.
There you go. Oh, very close. Let's see.
Chris, you're standing too close.
Shut up, Jackson.
Well, yes, but if you take into consideration that his arm reaches out to here, it all balances out.
That's fair. Sorry, that's not that
There it is.
Not regulated. Well, this is my second season, so.
Hey.
Yeah, whole thing.
Oh, it's
Maybe good for the
fun.
show.
I give you game.
Bonus points if the lid goes with it, so.
Make it.
All right. A legitimate point. And the candle, okay. That's a half a point for getting the candle to land upright, so all right. I gotta get back here. The table's in my way here, so. Oh, so close. So close. All right, watch out. You don't know the front row, you might want to watch out. This is my. Yeah.
Y'all better totally
Oh, let's see. That was some good lids from Starbucks right there. That was good.
There it is.
All right, so we're tied, 1-1. There's a money ball. 2 points. 2 points right here. Y'all can get the candy after the show. After we pray. After we pray. All right, here we go. After the show. After the show. All right. Oh, that's. I'm gonna go toe first. Toe first here. All right, here we go. I made some candy. All right, guys. Thank y'all for being here. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you so much for everything you blessed us with. We thank you for tonight. Thank you for the blessing of Brian and Jane and their family and just all of the ways that you have moved in Brian, the way that you raised him, the way that you grew him, the way that you poured into him and surrounded him with the right voices, the right influences at just the right times in his life. And Father, I thank you for him being that voice and that influence in the lives of students today and the friends that he continues to be around. I thank you for all of the work that you blessed him to do, the light that he was, the example that he was around the world as you moved him and led him to all of those different places and gave him those opportunities in the way that he and Jane just lived your light and lived out your love wherever it was that you took them in the world. Father, I just pray that you continue to bless Brian and Jane and just pour over their family in blessing and continue to lead them and guide them, continue to put those opportunities before them each and every day to continue to be your voice, to continue to be your light, to continue to be your love. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. Thank you guys. Have a great week.